Hey, welcome to another Valley Forged. So, what are we doing today? We're making a zip wallet, a leather zip wallet. And I love working with leather when it comes to lasers. I think it's one of the best things that it does, especially diode lasers. Almost every diode laser can do leather, especially if you're working with thin leathers like I am here. This happens to be thin Italian leather. And yeah, it's a little expensive. So practicing, and we're gonna get into that, is super important. Each one of these panels is about $23, which, hey, may not be that bad, but when you consider if you make a mistake, it can get expensive very, very quickly. So I'm gonna talk to you about how to make the least amount of mistakes. And of course, one thing I'm gonna say over and over, settings, and practicing those settings. And doing it as much as you can before you get to the good leather. All right, so we're gonna go over this. I have made a regular, Now, some of you have probably already seen my men's style wallets, and these, I would probably do this first. And these are a little bit easier. The zipper tends to really add some complications when it comes to making the wallet. And even for me to design, this took so much longer to design. Here's the final version here. I'm starting to print it out in different because it did come out well. Of course, even with this, I made some mistakes. So let's go back to the beginning. Yes, if you are just making your first wallet, I would suggest you go, and I'll put it up here and in the description, to looking at making my men's wallet. You can get that pattern for a Lightburn for like $220. So it's super cheap. I just did that so everybody would have access to that. And it works really well, and it's pretty simple. This, I wouldn't say it's not simple, but it definitely isn't the one I would do my very first one. So there are, of course, at least 3 different ways that you can go about this. You can just make this whole thing yourself. And if you go to my playlist, it will go through how to make the holes and how to get them separated. Everything you need, all the tools you need, everything. I'm not going to go through all of that in this video. I'll go through some of it. Everything that you need to think about when you're working with leather on a laser. What kinds of lasers, everything. So that is one way. You could just do all this yourself and you will learn a ton. Another way to do it, of course, is to get the pattern. I have it below, and I'm sure it's very reasonable. And the third way, I learned how to make this wallet from Corsair leather, and it's beautiful. But you're gonna have to make your own holes, so you're gonna have to buy the things to do that. But that's another great way to learn, and I think it's a very fine way. I just happen to love lasers. That's my thing. And so, of course, I wanna make it on a laser. Now, the zipper can get pretty tricky with that, and that's kind of something we're gonna go over. So the first thing I do, and I'm also going to put a link to the Corsair leather video below so you can watch how it's done by hand. I think it's very useful to be able to see that. I'm going to do things slightly differently here. But again, settings. And one of the things that's going to help you, not necessarily with settings, just to make sure that you've got everything correct, is doing this on foam. And again, enjoy this process. Take your time, don't be in a rush. Once you learn how to do this and do it slowly and correctly, it will be easier and easier and easier. You can bust out 100 of these, no problem. But the first couple, you really want to take your time. And so what I usually do is I start out with foam. In fact, here's what I did for my mother a long time ago, and it still works. It works great. So it's a working product, just glued together to make sure everything fits together, the holes are right, the zipper works, which we're gonna get into in a second, types of zippers. And before you go, I mean, this was a decent sized piece of leather. And so you don't wanna, you spend $20 on making a mistake. So here, let's get this out of here. All right, so once you have downloaded this and you have printed it out on at least paper, at least print it out on something where you're confident that you've got it correct. You can put anything you want in here. You know, I have this logo that I made is Love Moi. I just like it for my feminine products. Sorry. But you can put anything you want as a logo here. You can put initials, you can put it on the back. You can do anything you want. There are so many different styles. You could also put a hole here or a heart, which is something that I plan on doing. But you know, just get the basics first, because once you get this going, you can actually just mix and match. You can make a whole bunch of these, and then you could say, oh, you know, these two colors would probably look nice together, or these two. And then you can mix and match and just make any kind of, you know, thing you want to. I happen to really like this turquoise. Now this is from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply. I typically get my leather from Buckle Guy, but as far as getting the, you know, interesting and different colors, I think Rocky Mountain Leather Supply has more. They're roughly the same price. You know, what you'll realize is that when you buy even Italian leather, which is all I get, the colors are going to be a little different than what they look like. And this really isn't their fault. You go ahead and finish a wallet and then you take a picture of it in the sun with the proper lighting, and it is going to look different. Especially like the dark blue that I use for my wallets. It looks really dark blue in real life, but when you take a picture of it, it really lightens up, and it's almost too hard to see if you don't do that. So I don't really blame them for the colors being slightly off, but at the same time, it is something that you have to think about. I tend to use the dyed leather. I just feel like it works better. I use only veg tan leather for what I do. That's just my personal preference. I have done some research. I made a video on that actually, on chrome tan leather, and it seems like it's not so dangerous nowadays as it used to be. And so I'm not necessarily saying you shouldn't use that. This is something I do from my heart that I absolutely love doing. And so I tend to want to use Italian leather because it makes me feel good. So you got the leather and you're thinking about zippers. Well, I made a huge mistake on this first one. You see, I thought I got these zippers from Hobby Lobby, and they look like they would be just a little nicer than the ones I had. Where are these? I got this set, and you know, super cheap. You get a whole bunch of them. You can cut your own. This is number 5 from Amazon, and I just didn't think it quite had the pizzazz I was looking for a Italian leather wallet. In fact, you can see it right here. I mean, it's fine. So I decided to get this one from Hobby Lobby. I mean, even though I would probably go with gold if I was to do this. This is kind of a practice. I mean, I wanted it to turn out well, but this zipper does not work well enough. It binds in certain places, and I think that's because of the way that it rounds. But what I notice is these zippers don't. And this is the nylon versus the metal. And I'm not saying all metal zippers will do this, but you know, as it curves, I think these work a bit better. So for now on, I'm going to go with this. And what I'm doing is ordering different poles so I can get the look that I want to get. So yeah, this video is going to ramble in lots of different directions just because I want you to know everything, and there's a lot to learn when it comes to doing this. But once you get it down, you know, like I was mentioning before, I'll just make a whole bunch of backs, right? These are the ones for the men's wallets. and then I can just mix and match or make them whenever I want to, or add a certain type of pocket that somebody wants. So like I said, once you do it, it will just become far easier. And engraving into it works really well. I'm super happy with the way this comes out. And in my own personal wallet, which is up at the house, I have it engraved with my logo. Nothing bad has happened to it. It looks just as good or better than when I first engraved it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Of course, you're going to protect everything. Okay, so you're going to download, or you're going to make your own pattern. Now, once you've got that done, you're going to go ahead and put it to the laser. You got to get your settings, use like little margins or whatever you can to make sure that it's as good as you can get it for settings. You're going to cut it out. First thing you're going to do, bring it to the table. You're going to use some sort of leather cleaner or conditioner on it very quickly, which I did on these, and just to make sure that it's covered with something and that you clean off especially the engraving areas, but around the outside. And that seems to work really, really well. It just took off any kind of residue immediately. I don't think it matters that much what kind you get. I mean, this was just something that was laying around the shop. I do have a whole bunch of different ones, but that worked just great. So why use something else? And I also have this Kiwi brush that, I just brush things off with. So now you have cut it out, you have protected it, it looks good. What's the next thing you're gonna do? Here, let me pull out the actual one. So what did we do next? If you want, and this is totally optional, but what I do is I have a fabric marker. And so I went around the pocket up here with this fabric marker. I use it to make the sides perfect. They already come out black because it's a laser, but it does make it nice. And then if you want to get some tokenol, is what it's called, to seal the edges, I do highly recommend that. This seems to be the standard. It seems to be what everybody uses. How? Just hit my knee on some metal. That's rough. Yeah, it seems to be what everybody uses. So, once you get your edge black or whatever and get it to how you want it to, then you can just put some of that tokenol around the outside, and you can burnish it with a burnishing tool or something to, burnish the edges. Again, I'm not going to go over everything in this video, but I haven't done that yet to this one. So that's the next thing. And now that you've got this edge is the one that you really have to worry about, because once you glue it on, then you're not going to be able to get to that edge. You can still get to the outside edge. So you'll want to do the inside edge here of the zipper as well. Anything you want to do to the inside of this zipper edge and this edge, you're going to want to do first. And then I took this rougher specialty tool. I think you could use a butter knife. And you're going to go around just right where you're going to put the pocket. And so first take the pocket and line it up. Make sure that pocket, you can see through, where the holes are. Everything is right. Then you're going to rough up only the area where this is going to glue onto. You don't need to rough the back of this because it's already rough. But the front of this, you see it's very glossy, and the glue's not going to stick to it that well. So you'll want to have that roughed up. So you can go ahead and glue this on. I use Aqualim 315 myself because it doesn't smell. A lot of people use other types of glues, but they typically have a really, really bad smell, and you're going to have to use them well ventilated. So that one works for me really well. And then you're going to want to next deal with the zipper, or put the zipper in. And so first thing you're going to do is measure it out. I would just measure it out and make sure that it fits, right? You don't want it to go over the edge, or else you'll see it. You can see in this wallet, right? You don't want it to go too far out, or else you'll see it. So, but you don't want it to not fit either and be able to come off. So measure that, cut it, use whatever type of scissors you need to, cut that out, it will be in there. Now, if you watch the Corsair leather video, you will see that they put some two-sided tape here and they put that down. That is a good way to do it. I use super glue myself. And what I do is, let's say this is the zipper and here's your pull, making sure everything is, exactly how you want it. This pull is going to be a pain. You've got it exactly how you want it right at the end. This is cut off on both sides and it's right in the middle. What I typically do is I hold down this side and then I lift up this side and I gently put a little super glue in the right spots and the outside edge, of course. You don't want it to show. And then you put that down and have it hold. I use the medium viscosity because it will last a little longer before it sticks. So you have a little bit of time. And then I let that dry. And part of the reason I do that is because it's quick. I mean, I don't want to spend all day doing the zipper. So then I'll lift up this side and I'll glue that down, put that in. It's a nice thing about using a removable one is that you can not have that in your way. Then when it's all glued down, and make sure this is glued down really well. I think that's super important. Probably the most, and I went over this in the beginning, is probably the most difficult thing about this is the zipper, and that's why it makes it so much more difficult than the men's wallet. The laser will cut out the holes for the leather, but cutting out the holes for the zipper, I find to be quite a bit more difficult. And so how are you going to know when you go through the backside of the zipper where that hole is? And thus far what I do is I use a punch. And so once this is glued, and it is glued down really well, the Aqualim will work really well for this as well. You don't have to use super glue. Just give it some more time to dry. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go around and you're going to punch through everywhere. Now, this will also help you make sure that you've got a punch in places where that zipper is. Now, this is another reason why the nylon zippers work better than the metal. It is a little easier to punch through and around that zipper in case it gets in your way. So you're going to go around and make sure you can do that. I try to make sure that I can do it from both sides. So once it's glued down, I punch it through the front side, then I also punch it through the back side. I want to get it as easy to see as possible, because I would say that's really the most difficult step about all of this. And if one of you come up with a better solution, please let me know. This is a relatively new pattern for me. I adore it. I think it comes out beautifully. I mean, here's the finished one, and I think it works really well. It's slightly bigger than the men's wallet because I wanted some room for the hand to go in. So it will, be a little bigger for the cards, but I think it's just a fantastic design. And I do hope to improve it over time. You see, I didn't even try to close it because of the zipper. That is, it still hurts when you get something finished that you're very happy with and it doesn't work correctly. So I did order more and different colors of these so that I would have a variety to go with my wallets, and then I'll get the different types of pulls so that I can make it look as nice as possible when you're dealing with something this expensive. Just something I want to do correctly. Now, I may get questions about how to get the soot or something out of the holes or out of everything. I don't really have that much issue with it unless you're going to do a really, really light thread. And I will put a video down below that shows you the different methods that you can do to clean out those holes. And I've never actually had to do that myself. I think even with the lighter leather, once it was done, you can I do tend to use a little bit more thread than I'm supposed to. And you can go back in my videos, but it's typically, I think it's 3.5 times the area that you're going to be sewing. So in this case, you know, you would have a zipper, so you would just need to do 3.5 times around. Here you've got 3.5 times just the half, because it's only going around the half. When you make the thread a little bit longer, what's going to happen is the first part of the thread is going to take up most of the dirt. And they do show that in the video that I posted. That is one way to deal with it. And I just do that naturally, so it already helps. And then I just wipe it off with some cleaner afterwards. So far, it's worked really, really well. But again, settings. It's just such an important part of what's going on. So the next thing you're going to do is, and yes, I will try to make a quicker tutorial for this, you know, later. This is the first one, and it is a little bit long, but I'm just trying to say everything that's on my mind now, because it's what I'm going through when I'm trying to develop this. I want to try to make this as easy as possible for everybody out there, but again, not nearly as easy as the other one. So you're going to sew in the zipper now. And I use a saddle stitch for this as well. I don't think you necessarily have to, but that's what I do. I use a stitching pony. You don't even have to have one of those. There's videos that'll show you how to saddle stitch freehand. But for me, it was worth the money just to have that. This is something I do pretty often, so it was worth having that. And I really enjoy the sewing part. It's just very zen, at least the outside and the other pattern. The zipper can be a little bit more tedious and difficult, but the more I do it, and when I get the proper zippers, and I want you guys to leave in the comments, or if you get the pattern on Etsy, you can you know, send me a picture of how the zipper that you put in and how you did it, and if you did things differently. I would be more than happy to add that. This whole project has taken an incredible amount of trial and error, and I think it's worth it, but it will get better, and hopefully with everybody's help. So you're gonna, once you sew this in, again with a saddle stitch, it will look like this. Like, my stitching isn't perfect, but you can see the stitching along the outside is far better than that for the zipper. It's just more difficult. And I think part of the problem was, of course, this zipper again. Once you get that in, and now you've already got this part done, you're pretty much, you know, on the road. You can do your edges. What I would do next is I would rough up. I mean, this is already roughed up. So what I would do next, your zipper's working fine, everything's good. You can go ahead and glue these two parts together. So you're not going to sew them yet. You can glue those two parts together. And now I would go ahead and do some finishing on the edges, just your rough finishing, which I haven't done yet, again, for this wallet. Just made it yesterday. And then just make sure it's as clean as you can get it, and go ahead and sew it together. And that part is, you know, pretty simple, and it feels really good, because once you finish sewing that, you've got a finished product. And then I, of course, cleaned it off again with some cleaner. I put some neat's foot oil on this particular one, but another thing I wanted to talk about, you know, as we're talking about threading, is the types of thread. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos, but the size of thread will make a huge difference in how it looks. Let me pull out one of my men's wallets. So you can see this thread looks a lot bigger than this thread, because it is. This is like a 0.6, I believe, of Ritza Tiger thread. And you can buy this as a lot cheaper if you buy it this way, but it doesn't like to stay on the, you know, it stays way better when you have a roll, but also it's a lot more expensive. This thread can be really expensive. And if you want to get all of the different colors you want, and then you want to get all the different weights that you want, it could be hundreds of dollars, $1,000. So I got a sampler pack from Buckle Guy that gave me all kinds of different colors. I mean, it's been, amazing because of course I got the red thread, I got all kinds of different, but it's the kind that you get is a little bit thicker and it works better, I think, for the masculine wallets. So I wanted something thin for these wallets. So I got this 0.6 and I think it's about right. But now I've got to get it for each wallet. Now, what I got for the pink, this one, when I want to do pink thread, I actually bought some twist premium thread. I think this was from Rocky Mountain Leather Supply, but I think those colors are going to really pop. But of course, it's to your own taste and what you want. Also, these holes are a little bit closer together than on my other wallet because I thought it also made it look a little bit more feminine. It does make a little bit more work because you have more holes to deal with, but let me know what you think and how it turns out. Is this something that has worked well for you? Have you done my other wallet and then done this one? And what are you noticing differently? How can I improve this? What's missing in this video that I didn't mention? That isn't mentioned in my other videos, of course, but there are some basic things that I might have missed. I literally just made these and they turned out really well. Lasers are so amazing. I just really enjoy waking up every day and making a new project. And leather has come to be something I like to teach on YouTube because almost every laser can do it. And so I may have a 30-watt laser and I'm showing you that, but you have a 10. Well, can you do this? Absolutely. And I've mentioned this in other videos, but I typically use around a 2.8 to 3 ounce leather, and that's really thin. But again, I think for this, it makes it very feminine. But I would think probably all the way up to 5 ounce will be really nice, and you could use that for most leathers. If you want to start getting thicker, 10 watt might start being an issue. I don't know. I don't actually use it. So, but any questions are fair game. Just try to be nice. I'm doing the best I can here. There isn't a lot of people doing this on the internet, so I'm just trying to share what I can. And I'll get better, you'll get better, we'll get better together. And hopefully we can make way better stuff than this and take it where it goes. And I also want to just give a shout out to all those that have come before me. Little King Goods, I believe, and Couture Leather, and just so many different channels that I've watched just trying to help me get better at this. And it's been a process. And I think that for everybody out there, this is going to be a process. This isn't something you're just going to pick up overnight. Great if you do. But something else I mentioned in my other videos, you don't need to go out and buy everything. I would say just start and think, okay, what do I need? What are the next couple of things I absolutely need? Just get those. It will be easy to spend $1,000 on leather making tools and all kinds of stuff that you probably don't need. It all adds up. You might as well spend your money on the leather. But then when you get to something and you're like, you know what? The tool I'm using just isn't cutting it. Get something better. So that's all I'm going to say for this video. Again, I hope it was instructive. I know it was long. And maybe in the future, once we get some feedback, I will try to make a shorter, to the point video on this particular pattern. After I make about 40 like I have with the other one. Okay, thank you. Love you all.